Alright, we're going to install a toilet. I just replaced the floor. There was heavy water damage here in the corner. I actually had to put self-leveler down. It's still drying. But first thing you want to do is to make sure your toilet flange is not broke or loose. Just get something under there, wedge it under there. This is a second floor apartment, so there's going to be a little bit of play, but there shouldn't be much because it should be bolted down. So it doesn't look like it's broke where the bolts are going to hold in the toilet, so that's good. So we don't have to replace that. So then what I like to do next is set the toilet and level it with the shims before I put the wax ring down. So then what I'm going to do is set the toilet on the flange with the holes lined up where the bolts are going to be. And it should be straight with the wall. And then I'll throw a level on it. Just to be sure it's not too crooked. As long as it's in bubbles in between the lines, I call it good. So we're good left and right, but front and back. The front needs to go up a little bit. And there's a wobble here. So just take your plastic toilet shims. We'll start one on each side up front, but then one a little higher on this side. Almost in between here. Now, I don't mind shimming because it brings the toilet up and it doesn't compress the wax ring too much. I've seen it squeeze or push down that wax ring so much that it no longer seals. Water leaks right through it or right past it. There we go, bubble in between the lines. I just need to double up the shim up front here. And then check for a wobble and correct it. Barely got a wobble. So then the bolts will take care of that. And this is kind of the tough part. We just want to make sure when we lift the toilet up, the shims don't move too much. Let's see what happens. First time I recorded to see if they fall, I'm usually looking for. Back it up. Now you want to install the wax ring and the bolts. There are lines on the wax ring here and I'll line up with the bolt grooves here just to ensure everything's straight. They do make plastic washers that help hold these up straight, but they stay straight enough for the most part to where I don't use them. Make sure that your bolts aren't going to spin, otherwise you'll have to change the wax ring after compressing it with the toilet. And that's what I was talking about here. This line, I'll line up with the bolts just to make sure that you know the wax ring is in the center for the most part. Time to lift the toilet up, set it on the wax ring. Just make sure you got the bolts straight as possible. Might take a little finessing, some juggling to get both bolts in there. I've got the one on the left here, on the right. Alright. Make sure. Drop the toilet. I'll let the weight smash the wax spring. And I'll set the level on it. Bolt straight, straight from the wall. And then we'll get our bolt caps. So then the caps, if you can see, there's a lip here. Mushroom down, I say. It looks like a mushroom. Just make sure it just looks like a mushroom. Install the plastic washer and the metal washer. And then screw in your nut for both sides. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a shim under here. Don't push up on the toilet. Otherwise you're lifting the toilet off the wax ring, creating a gap. And the water will go past it. So I'm just going to put shims in here and make sure it doesn't wobble, since I've got shims up front here. And we'll tighten down these bolts. I like to do a little bit at a time on each side to make sure that it goes down evenly. You're not pulling too much on one side. And then as you're cranking on the other side, it's pulling on that. And then once it starts to get tight, you don't want to go too tight, because then you'll start cracking the porcelain. And once you think you're getting close, we're level. Let's give it a wobble. See how there's, I don't know if you can see, but there's some play in there. So we'll just tighten it down a little bit more. And since we know the toilet can't go up too much because of the bolts, we'll just tap on the shims. Not too much, just enough to keep it from wobbling. There's a little wobble there, but nothing significant. And then before you get too far, you want to test it. So don't cut the shims, don't cut the bolts. Don't do anything yet until you know it's not leaking. So we'll hook up the water. I've got this water line here. I prefer to use these because the flex lines are great, but if there's any twists in them, over time it'll eventually pinch. So we're going to use this guy, pretty much universal. So what I do is I put on the cap, screw it to the toilet first. Screw it on nice and snug. Don't over tighten it. Then you want to give just a little bit of slack. I bend it because it's got to be in there straight. But I just kind of guess. Let's see, it looks like, I don't know if you can tell, but I'll cut it off at the C. Cut it there, and then we'll put on compressor washer. That or not. Sharper. It's alright to leave a little bit of slack. It's just too much slack, you won't be able to bend it right. So we'll slip on the compression nut and the compression washer. As you can see, if you can see, it's tapered. So you want to put the smaller end on the bottom. So bend it into place. Slide that compression washer down, and then the compression nut. And then start twisting it on. Water valves are probably the only one that you can probably tighten a little bit more than snug. Just to be sure. So right here was snug. Just give it a little turn. And then I had to remove the valve handle to install the linoleum. So we got that tight. We've got this tight. So we're going to turn it on. Check for drips. Nothing's wet, spraying. Nothing's dripping. It's a little wet from just water sitting in the line there in the valve, but it's not dripping. So wait for the toilet to fill up. And then I'll flush it 3 or 4 times. And I'll look around here and make sure there's no water coming out. So what I'm going to do is take my rag or towel, put a saucer of water over here and make sure we don't get confused. Here we go. No puddling. No puddling. Unfortunately, the water could be going under the linoleum, so that's why I flushed multiple times. And there you go. That's how I install a toilet. There's no leaks. I've been flushing it. Seems like it's going to be just fine. So I'll just keep on going and finish this floor.